Hi, my name is Newell Davis with World Composting, and as promised, I'm back again to make another video. I'm going to try to get through all my systems this week and really try to update them all before I do a harvest. So with this, we're going to take a look at our Vermibag Max. This one has the red wigglers in it, and typically this one does pretty well just all year round. I have to say these big bag systems do work really well for a family of 4, maybe up to a family of 6. It might be a little bit rough. You might need 2 of them at that point, but they really do work pretty well, the Urban Worm Bag and the Vermibag Max. And, you know, these are really good for containing everything. But with that, I do need to update this one. I need to make sure that we have enough food and bedding in there. And then, as I said, these systems all need to be harvested. Now, we'll be doing that in a little bit later this week. And that way I can use that compost outside of my yard and sort of spread it around and get some areas growing that maybe have not been doing quite as well this past year. So with that, let's take a look at our system, see how it's doing, see how the worms are doing, see if we have any issues, and get them some food and some water and some bedding. All right, here we are with our Vermibag Max. We're going to go ahead and unzip this. And this one I do still have this tarp on top here. This just kind of keeps that moisture in. And also sometimes some bugs get on top and they die, but that's just what happens. And you can see there's a couple worms. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. A couple worms on top and a lot of millipedes. We're seeing some millipedes in this system. That's what happens sometimes when these systems sit for a while. They do get some millipedes in them. And millipedes are fine. You don't want the centipedes are bad. Millipedes are fine. Centipedes will actually eat your worms. Millipedes are composters, sort of like your worms are. And they are perfectly healthy. It looks like one of them right here is dead. But you can see right here we've got a section of the bin which is actually still very healthy and moist. There's even some worms on top here. So it's doing pretty well. But then we got the outside that's all dried out. But they actually ate all the cardboard at the center here. It's nice fluffy material. There's actually nice material. Look at all the worms in there. Look at that. Tons of them in this material. This is really good material, nice and rich and microbial. It's perfect for my garden. But look at that. You can see there's just a lot of worms in this section right here. This is where all the moisture is. That's why they're over here. They need that moisture. You can just see a lot of worms. All right, so with that, though, we're going to go ahead and clean off my gloves here a little bit, get all the worms off. Some of the castings. We're just going to kind of dig at these outside sections. You can still see worms over here as well, where the castings are. They're just not in the cardboard because the cardboard doesn't allow them to get the moisture that they need at this point. It's dried out. So you can see there's still quite a few worms in there. Nice material, though. Actually, you can see a layer here. I don't know if you can see the color change, but it goes from brown to black. That's probably where that biochar is that I'm adding. And actually, I do have something to add to the system this time. I forgot to add it yesterday, and you can see right here actually is a perfect example. You can see really it's black on top and then brown on the sides. That's where that biochar is. Biochar, the charcoal that I'm adding, it should be able to hold the moisture along with microbes and kind of get into my soil as well once I add that in. So it should be really, really good. I'm really excited about this as a different material to add to the systems. It's not going to break down like everything else was and just become castings. I know you want castings, but it's not going to just break down, and it's going to actually help the soil maintain some of its maintain the porous nature of it. It's not going to clump up. Look at that. You can see all the worms in here too. I mean, it's just tons of them. These red wigglers, I have to say, they are probably the best worm to get. If you're just starting out, I would highly recommend getting red wigglers to start. They just seem to survive everything, and they just always multiply once you get it going again. You can see the system, just the material in here looks wonderful. So we're going to go ahead and move this over to the side. We're going to check the front here a little bit. Can you see the front? Yeah, you can. Okay. Got to check the camera sometimes. So right over here, this is dried out completely on the side over here. So it's too dry on the front. The back looked a little better as far as the wetness or moisture. But you can see right here, I mean, I just cracked that open, a bunch of worms in there. And these worms do run away from light, so they're going to dig down. Not all worms do that, by the way. I think African night crawlers tend to just hang out. But overall, looks really good. Let's just dig over here real quick. One last peek. Again, a big chunk, but look at this, just breaks apart easily. Not as many worms are on this side. This is a little bit too dry, I think, over here. There's even some leftover, looks like avocado peel right here. So it looks like they're not really chewing at that because of how dry it is. And it's really, really dry over here and on the side, especially around that seam. On the back, there's a seam for the bag right there. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and put that back down. Kind of move this around a little bit. Now what are we going to do? First thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spray this down. I'm going to use my rigid sprayer. Just going to get that going. Add some moisture in here now before I forget. But also just to kind of make sure we have a lot of moisture on this section over here underneath where we're going to put our food and everything. There we go. Clean off my glove too. That's one thing I like about this. I can kind of clean off my glove while I'm doing this. Just a little bit too far away. I don't know. There we go. So now we're getting all the sections over here. Just rotate that around. We're just getting all this a little bit damp. We're not going to saturate it. We're just getting it a little bit damp, so that way there's some moisture in here for the worms. When we add our food and everything, it's going to be a little bit drier of a food source, and we're going to add some dry cardboard on top. So that should be good for that. For a second, just clean off my gloves. Put a little bit of moisture in. And now I want to do the same thing I did last time. I'm going to add a shirt. So this is one of my shirts right here. It's a big giant red shirt. We're going to add that right into the center. This is already sort of double layered. This is a thicker shirt. This is 100% cotton, or it's supposed to be. So this should break down in the system pretty well, hopefully. But this is going to make it so when I go to empty out the bottom, I'm hoping that everything underneath here will be consumed, and that this will be an area where I'll know to stop, and it'll kind of clog up the downward section. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and add some water to this as well, just to kind of moisten it up, since I'm not adding watermelon this time. As you can see, that water's it's sitting on top for a second, but it's soaking in. Again, as I said, this is supposed to be a 100% cotton shirt. You know, granted, you never know if that's really true or not with some of these companies anymore, but it's supposed to be. If it's not, it'll be there at the bottom, and I can pull it out then. I'm trying to find the off switch here on my. There we go. All right, so you guys can see, actually, it is soaking in a little bit, but not soaking as much as I thought. I thought it would really kind of run right through here, but that's okay. It is soaking in. It'll slowly run through. But with that, well, what do we need to add here? We need to add some food. So first thing for food I want to add, though, is our normal. I'm just going to take off my glove for a second here. Is I want to grab some of my Vitamix for food cycler output. And I've been adding a lot of this stuff to my systems. I like the fact that it's broken down. I'm going to add quite a bit here because there's actually quite a few worms in there. But we're going to add some regular food as well. But I'm going to actually spray this down again just to make sure everything's wet. Again, moisture is very important for worms. It's how they breathe through their skin and everything. But this also is just helpful to have it get wet. And you really want to make sure this stuff is covered really well. So I'm going to saturate it pretty well. I don't know if you can hear the zapping of my bug zapper. I have had kind of a fruit fly or fungus gnat or something in here. So at some point we had, I think I mentioned in the last video, we had some bananas that really had a lot of fruit flies come off of them. And lately I've been finding them down here in the basement, since we do eventually have all of our banana peels end up down here at some point. I don't know if they've escaped and sort of made it into some other areas. But with that, all right, so that's got some moisture in it. Now we're going to add our food layer. That's actual food that's left over from when we ate some stuff without going through the food cycler. So this is some corn on the cob and artichokes. So there's a lot in there, but this stuff is very fibrous. Takes a while to break down in worm bins, but it does do a good job. I'm trying to find a place to put the container of breaking down once the worms get acclimated to it and really start ripping it apart. This is sort of almost like a bedding material with how fibrous-y it is, but it works really well. So with that, that's going to be mixed in with this food source down below. This is frozen, by the way. If you can't tell, you can see some of the ice on it. This is still frozen. They're not breaking apart. They're not frozen enough to break apart, like they could shatter, but they are frozen, and they'll take a little time to thaw. Now with that, we can't just leave this like this. I am going to go ahead and cover this up a little bit with the corners here, which weren't quite as wet. There's plenty of moisture we've added to the system, but we're going to add even more, of course. So with that, what we're going to do is actually, you know what? Hold on, one last thing. Hold on, let me back up just a second here. Let me back up. We're going to go ahead and add in some biochar. I'm going to grab a big spoonful here. Hold on a second here. I have more of this ready to go. And I do want to make sure that I get some of this in here. You can see that is really mixed in well with a lot of water. And this should be nice and kind of goopy, which is fine. But the worms are going to work through this, take it out through all over the system, which would be great. Just wipe some of this off. I think last time I poured it in, but this time it really marked up the container a little bit more than I thought. You can see it's really still goopy in there. It's really, really good. Hopefully they're going to work through this material, grab that stuff, move it all through the bin as they work through this material, and that way we can get that all acclimated and have good microbial content in that biochar. So with that, we're going to fold this up. All the food's within here now, which is perfectly fine. They are eventually going to work through this shirt, which is what I really want to have happen, because I really want to sort of get rid of some of these shirts that I have that have had sitting for quite a while now. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to add a whole bunch of cardboard in here and get that wet. So I've got a container. This isn't wet, the cardboard. It's dry cardboard. I didn't have a chance to really pre-moisten like I normally do. We're going to go ahead and spread this around the sides. Spread this all over. We're going to add quite a bit of crush. We're going to have to add more than this even. And it's fine that I'm adding a lot of cardboard this time, because we're going to be harvesting, and then all this cardboard is going to fall into the bottom of the system. Let me just grab I've got a big cardboard container here that I have that's ready to go at all times. That has tons of cardboard in it, that's already pre-shredded. I do recommend getting a shredder. I have one that I've reviewed a couple times on my channel. I've had it, I think, for 7 years now, or 8 years, maybe even longer, which is a Royal shredder, which works really well. It's oilless. And as I said, I mean, this goes through tons and tons of material. Now, we do need more water in here. We're going to go ahead and grab our sprayer again and spray this down. I might need to actually dump some water in here as well, but right now we're just going to go ahead and spray. And just rinse my glove off here, so there's a whole bunch of paper on it. This is just going to moisten everything up a little bit, weigh it down. And this acts as a barrier to this material, which we need. You know, you've got a lot of food in here. It can grow mold, it can grow different things. So you're going to want these barriers to be up over the top. Now this is not going very deep, this water, I can tell you that. It's really just staying on the surface there. It's soaking into the paper. But this way, as the material in here starts to kind of perspirate its water out into the air, it's going to hit this, it's going to be able to go somewhere and then go back in. It's not just going to hit a dry layer immediately at the top here, and it'll be able to soak back down in here. So with that, we do want to add some more moisture. Let me just see here. You can see it's starting to get down a little bit actually to the shirt. I do have more moisture I could add too. I could also dump some water in here, which I have done in the past. But I think this is going to be enough this time. Just this right here. And as you can tell, I've got a mixture in here of cardboard and paper. You know, these are just junk mail that I get and things like that. I shred it up, put it in here, or anything that we print out for school or something like that for my kids. We eventually shred it up and put it in here. We do recycle some of it, but I don't know if my county's supposed to recycle stuff, and they're supposed to be doing all those things, but you just never know if they really are or just burning it. So that's where I've been trying to then add more paper to this, because this way I know it's being recycled. And then we're going to put our little cover back on top here, just like that. And it's going to hold this moisture in the center. It's going to keep everything nice and good for the worms. Actually, hold on. There's one more thing. Actually, before we do this, I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to just peel this back just a little bit like that. If I can get it to stay. Maybe this way would be better. There we go. I do want to actually rinse out this container right here, I think. So I think I'm going to grab, I'm going to turn on my sprayer again. I'm going to spray this out. This has a lot of charcoal in it. I'm not sure I really want that much in here. There you go. Just emptying this out a little bit, cleaning off the sides. I do put this in my freshwater containers to get water, so I don't want to necessarily have all this stuff built up in it. And yes, this is a Talente jar. This is just a gelato jar. I reuse a lot of stuff you're going to notice in my videos if you haven't watched before, but there's no reason not to reuse stuff that you know is working, is waterproof. No reason for me to buy special equipment. You should always be trying to use what you have that maybe you could just, that you'd normally be getting rid of, but then try to use it for something that's repurpose that material. So that's what I've been using this for. And those things also work really well as containers around the house in my work section. So with that, we're going to close this system up. I think this looks pretty good. I think it's also ready for harvest now. And just like the other system, we've got that big shirt ball in the middle, and that way we can sort of know when to stop. When we start digging out the side, the center section normally falls first. It'll hopefully hold itself up so we can get some of the sides to fall in, and then that'll fall and sort of block the entire section until the worms can work through it. So with that, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and let me know what you think. And, it's always nice talking with you, so please leave some comments, everybody. Thank you.